Well, hi everybody. Welcome to Unit 5 of the E100 Bible reading plan in our Bible read-along. I really hope that your reading is giving you a sense of the flow of the Bible story. We often know individual stories from the Bible, but have difficulty remembering how they fit together. The E100 program is really designed to give you a better idea of how some of those key pieces fit. It's like studying the picture on the front of a jigsaw puzzle box to get the lay of the land. And you're not assembling the whole jigsaw puzzle with this, but you're looking at some of the really key places, and you can see how they fit then into the larger story as a result of this program. Now, this video is introducing Unit 5. Unit 5 is entitled The Law and the Land, and it shows us how God moves forward with Israel according to the plan that he has from the beginning, on the way, it's always important to remember this, on the way towards fulfilling his promise to bless all the world's peoples. That is, to rule again over the world that he created, even despite human rebellion, which has made the world tainted by our rebellion, by our sin. So in this unit, you'll see God giving Israel a law. Now, the law is very extensive. You're just reading a glimpse of it. It can get really discouraging to read all of it. Of course, it's based on the familiar 10 Commandments, but as the law goes on in many of the bits that we're not reading, we see how those commandments are applied to different life circumstances. Well, it's important as we read this to understand the bigger circumstances in which God gives the law. This happens in the middle of a really fearsome manifestation of God's presence at Mount Sinai, and Israel sees this and says, "Oh, we don't want to see God. Moses, you go up there. We can't approach God." And so there's a distance between God and his people. There is a pledge that Israel makes to obey the law as the law is given to it, and it's a pledge that Israel does not fulfill very well. As we read through the books of the law, we see how law is introduced, and then we see how Israel doesn't obey it, etc. And this law begins with the critical statement. Before God even gives a command, he says to Israel, "I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery." So this is saying this law doesn't bind you, but it actually makes you free. I'm the God who gives freedom. So the law has commands in it to honor God, that is to recognize God as king, and to honor others, to treat them with justice and with mercy, just like God's justice and mercy. And this is the basis for many of the commands that Israel is given. But as we said, Israel is bad at obeying. While Moses is up on the mountain, Israel is down in the valley, and they get frightened, and so they ask Aaron to make a god for them. And so out of the very stuff that they brought out of Egypt, that God had blessed them with, that the Egyptians had given them, they make a golden calf. And they become idolaters. And so, it is in that generation, and generation is kind of a fun word later in the Bible for this reason, that generation doesn't get to enter the promised land. And even Moses doesn't get to enter the promised land. It's going to be the next generation, led by one of the two Israelites who is allowed to enter the promised land because of his faithfulness, Joshua, into which they actually enter the land. So we'll see Joshua succeeding Moses in the story and leading Israel across the Jordan River in a way that reminds us of crossing the Red Sea and overcoming the first fortified city that they encounter as they enter the land, the city of Jericho. And so that episode becomes typical of the way that God gives Israel the land. But we also see, and again, in many parts that we're not reading, how those other tribes that observe pagan worship, that worship foreign gods, they're going to remain in the land. They're going to trouble Israel. And Israel is often going to assimilate to what they do. They're often going to try to find power by allying with them. They're often going to be harassed by them. This is going to continue to test Israel's faithfulness and show us the need that we have for something greater than the law to really draw us back to God and make us his people. So happy reading as you proceed with this unit's reading. And again, let us know through the email that's provided if you have questions or comments about the program.